Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I am the host who loves toast. Not the host who loves drama so much, however. That would be our drama king or queen or court jester, Mr. Brian E. Roach, the host who doesn't like toast. That's what makes you a fool, Brian. How's it going?
I don't like drama. I prefer to live a drama-free life. It's not my fault.
You know, all this smack talk, I thought Brian was going to walk out just now, but we're not going to talk about that today. I think Brian and the professor did so well with that in our last episode, and we're trying to keep some things fresh and come to you at least twice a week here with some Steelers stuff, but maybe not as Steelers related today, although there is some Steelers news. You know, everybody, I think, has drama, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Steelers adding to some of it with one, Mr. Joey Porter being shown the door, and now running backs coach James Saxon not being renewed or fired, or, you know, I don't like the word fired. It was kind of like the same wording they used with Todd Haley when his contract was not renewed. It's a little bit different when you're not rehired. I guess you're not technically fired or terminated. That would be if you were a current contract, right, Brian? Isn't that the syntax for that?
Yeah, when you're not renewed, it simply means your contract is no longer extended. You're a free agent, so to speak. Whereas if you're fired, it means you're under contract and they want you out. Get out. So it's different.
Yeah, it's different. Like, I don't know. I don't prefer those terms. And as someone had said, you know, right after week 17, when you're talking about some of these changes, these people have, you know, families of their own, wives, kids, leaving areas for new areas or wherever it may be, dropping down to the college ranks, maybe not doing anything at all. We'll see. So, of course, there's a little bit of the drama going around, too, with Mike Munchak apparently making the rounds or not making the rounds, depending on which team it is. If you hadn't heard this and you've been living under a rock, so to speak, with the offseason, I totally feel you. I want to go hide too, but I did watch the games this weekend. We're going to get to those in a second too. It's kind of the thing with Mike Munchak. Apparently he's turned down a job or didn't even want to interview with the Miami Dolphins. He did this last year, I believe. Was it the Arizona Cardinals he said no to? And,
yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, apparently he has family in Denver, and he's had dinner, and I have a buddy who's very logical. He lives in the New York sports market, so he gets to hear a lot of insanity. He said, I don't know how these sports hosts can even entertain calls, like people trying to make crazy trades, thinking that, you know, for example, the Giants are just going to get the number one pick for some reason, just because, you know, the NFL will bestow it on them. Maybe they have a lottery machine like the NBA. I don't know what it is. Yeah. But he's a Broncos guy. I don't know how that works geographically. I don't care to figure that out, but he knows they need a new head coach. I said, stay away from our offensive line coach. Stay away. Yes, I said our, like I own the team, and I have, you know, some entitlement there to keep Mike Munchak in town. I have absolutely zero power, maybe less than zero power to do that. But, you know, there was some links that he has family there, and that might be a fit. I remember wasn't that deal with Bill Cowher? He was going to come out of retirement from working the desk at CBS or whatever and go coach the Carolina Panthers years ago because he had family there, and that never happened. You know, my buddy goes, oh, well, I would have dinner too if I'm around somewhere at like 5 o'clock. You know, I mean, he's probably in the area, so to speak, if he does have family there. What else is Mike Munchak doing? You know, get a couple days off or whatever before you get back to whatever grind you guys are doing for the off season. So he's probably visiting family. Yeah, sure, I'll have dinner. But, you know, they're also talking to other guys. The same thing just happened. You could replace Mike Munchak's name with Vic Fangio, another candidate for that job, and you'll find all the same stuff. So it gets more magnified when you follow the Steelers, that the drama is only the Steelers. And that's kind of what our talk's about today.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, all right, I'm going with it, man. We're not going to mention the two initials A and B, or C and D as well today. I think, like I said, you and Zach did fine with that, but I have to come out and just Blast the officials. No, actually, that is kind of dumb, but we're going to talk about that game anyways. Oh, my goodness. They couldn't have put better guys on the Sunday games, could they? Clete Blakeman and Tony Corrente. It was like, let's find the all-stars of the worst referees that we've had all year. And Bill Vinovich had a game the day before on Saturday as well. It was just like all of the – let's get them all. It's the motley crew. But – you know what? I got to talk to some of the listeners out there, and we have some subscribers. I think most of them are Steelers fans, but there are some that find this show by way of other means, and they arrive in the comment sections wherever it may be, if it's on the website or on Twitter or YouTube, and they troll a lot. And a lot of them were Ravens fans because they just couldn't accept the fact that they actually did not win the AFC North. The Steelers lost it, and I'm sticking to it, just like Jesse caught it. And everyone was saying no one wants to play the Baltimore Ravens, blah, 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 blah. And I may not have gotten to say it here because of the lapse in the last time I was on the show. But I was like, I'm talking with other people. I'm talking with my uncle. I'm talking with people who are disconnected from the Steelers entirely. And I said, the Chargers have seen this team. They've seen this Lamar Jackson deal once already. They've been playing decently on the road. They have a veteran quarterback. They match up very well because their defense is going to be able – I think their defense will be able to stop this. I likened it to a fad, like the RPO thing or the read option, the RG3 deal. When you had him and you had Kaepernick running around all over in the league, and they were like, next year everybody's going to stop it. They're going to have film on it. They've seen it. Chargers saw it. Chargers had film. Chargers have played against it. Chargers stopped it. So – Ravens fans, you could pipe up now. You're going to catch a seat right next to me on the couch and watch the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, as you're absolutely right in saying that so many Ravens fans were like, nobody wants to play us. But I think you can clearly see that there was at least one team that really did want to play you, and that was San Diego.
Wait, who? They still have a team there? Is it
San Diego?
Canadian?
I don't care. I don't care anymore. They're the damn San Diego Chargers. I just don't care. I don't like the Los Angeles Chargers. It bothers me.
It does.
You know what?
It does.
They can be the Los Angeles Chargers after their brand new shiny glitzy stadium that keeps being presented to make the entirety of the rest of the NFL jealous as this glowing gem of football. When that becomes, then I'll call them Los Angeles.
And
until that thing shows up, they're San Diego.
They'll have like 10 Super Bowls. It bothers me just as much because it's like, hey, it's kind of like the 49ers playing like 45 minutes from their stadium. It's not even close to San Francisco. The Chargers play in a soccer stadium, I think in Carson or something like that. I'm trying to remember. Well, I don't know. Maybe that wasn't the Home Depot Center. But regardless, it's like, however 30 minutes, 40 minutes or whatever away from – it's not actually in LA. It's not like downtown. So, they're like the Santa Monica Chargers or whatever. You have the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, which was one of the most ridiculous names that was given to the baseball team years ago. So I totally get it. I could sympathize with you not wanting to acknowledge that they're LA. They should be like the LAA Chargers, like the Los Angeles area Chargers.
Yeah, but it's clear, be they from San Diego or be they from Los Angeles, it's clear that the team with the lightning bolts on the side of their helmets really wanted to play the Ravens again. And look, for 3 quarters, it was not even a game. For 3 quarters, the only reason that the Ravens were involved in the game was their defense, and Phillip Rivers played well. Their defense played fantastic, and they let it kind of get a little more interesting than it needed to be in the fourth quarter there. But they ended up winning the game, and all was right with the world.
Yeah, well, hey, you know what? I looked this up too, and Carson is just to the south. I was right. It is Carson. It is the soccer stadium that barely holds like 30,000 people, and they still can't fill it with like 5,000 Chargers fans. But it is south, and it actually is 20 miles to the south, 40 minutes with traffic, and I think that's actually a good estimate considering Los Angeles traffic. So
yeah,
but yeah, Santa Monica is actually to the west, so I don't want anybody getting angry, and then there's going to be Chargers fans jumping on. They've done it too. They've trolled too. I'd say their time's coming, but I'm not so sure when I look at the rest rest of the playoff field. We didn't really get to make any playoff predictions, so we'll throw some things out here. But 23-17, I was getting a little nervous. I got nervous. Melvin Gordon got hurt in that game. I'm like, oh, great, this again. And then I got nervous toward the end because the Chargers were just playing the Steelers prevent conservative garbage where, let's not move the ball. Let's let the other team gain all of these yards and then put up points. And it was kind of bothering me. But, Lamar Jackson, I think, man, Captain Fumble along with Kenneth Dixon. No, they can't protect the football. And this is going to be interesting because this is what really the show's all. we already kind of went through this. This started with, there's some tweets, there's some people that really got under my skin, even like media personalities, and nothing too personal, but just enough that it irritates me to talk about, is no other NFL team has drama. Look at these teams, and they were talking about the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts initially, and I'll get to that, but none of these playoff teams have any sort of drama. Well, number one, just as you were discussing, this is the LA Chargers now. They play in LA. There's lots of drama surrounding that team. And then, the Alex Spanos, the Spanos family, the patriarch passing away, that adds some element of drama. Phillip Rivers having never participated in a Super Bowl, let alone win one. That's drama. There's drama. It's different levels of drama, but everyone has drama. Now the Ravens, on the other hand, they had drama before, like right at halftime. You had the hosts of the CBS network. You even had, believe it was Jim Nantz and Tony Romo were even talking about it even before half, about putting Joe Flacco in over your rookie quarterback that actually got you to this point with the amount of wins. He started winning as soon as you put him in. We all said it before the season started, Brian. We thought that every coach in the AFC North, Mike Tomlin included, we thought he was the lesser of all four. We felt that they were all on the hot seat. Two already canned. There's your drama right there. If you don't have a head coach currently, you have drama. So Cleveland Browns right back in the drama mix, because guess what? If they don't keep or retain Greg Williams, not only as a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator, I assume they're trying to keep their offensive coordinator, Freddie Kitchens. But if they overhaul all this thing again and they suck in 2019, there's going to be drama again. The Baltimore Ravens are right in the mix now because Joe Flacco is going to be headed out of town with his high-priced contract. Guess what happens? They don't make the playoffs. Joe Flacco goes somewhere and does. Holy cow. There are going to be people with the pitchforks and torches calling for John Harbaugh's head again. They already were at the beginning of the season. Yeah,
look, I will – there's drama and then there's manufactured drama, and then there is – speculative drama, and that's what we had at halftime there. I will give John Harbaugh props for sticking with the guy that he needed to stick with, because you're absolutely right, though. Everybody was speculating, is he going to put Flacco in? Obviously, Lamar is stinking up the joint. He had -6 passing yards at one point in the game. He kept to the kid, and I think I get that. I understand it. Heaven knows what it would have done to that kid's psyche if he had gotten pulled in that game and had to live with that throughout the offseason. So he had a chance to have some success. But look, this isn't the kind of quarterback that ends up winning championships and hoisting Lombardi trophies. At least it hasn't been up to this point. So we'll have to see. But what I think we discovered is until Lamar Jackson proves he can throw the ball consistently, accurately, and protect it, eventually teams are going to figure him out. The Chargers sure did, and that's the way that's going to go. But you bring up a point. We have toyed with this idea of what happens to Joe Flacco. I don't think there's anybody in Baltimore or the rest of the country or the world that thinks Joe Flacco's a Baltimore Raven next year.
Oh, definitely not.
The cap, I don't know whether it's even the cap hit. It's just he's going to cost them money that they don't need to spend on a guy who is going to be a backup quarterback. And, when you watched that game, here's drama that's not manufactured. You want to talk about a guy who's going to be counterproductive in your locker room, that's going to be Joe Flacco. When you watched that game, you did not see a more miserable human being sitting on the sidelines than Joe Flacco going, this sucks, I hate it, I want to play, I can't believe that I'm stuck here on the sidelines.
Did you get that body language from him? And then they reported
absolutely.
he was just sitting there. They showed Lamar Jackson after one of the turnovers or whatnot, or one of the stalled drives, and he's looking on the they get the Surface tablets all in your face, and Joe was like looking in the complete opposite direction, like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I could back up Phillip Rivers or whatever he's thinking in his head. Phillip's getting he's a little older than me. Maybe he'll be on his way out. This looks like a nice, that's a nice team. That's a mighty nice team. It's my Shrek impression with Donkey. That's a nice rock. That's a nice rock. I can't do it that well, but yeah, I mean, Flacco, holy cow. He was a cap hit for 2018. His cap hit was $24.7 million. I believe that may have been the highest in the NFL. At one point it was, before all these new contracts got hashed out with like Kirk Cousins and whatnot, and Aaron Rodgers getting a new deal. And don't worry, we're going to talk about all that too, because guess what? That's drama when you pay $96 million for a quarterback and don't make the postseason. Yeah, that's tough. Let me see. I got Flacco here. Flacco's still under contract through 2021. Not set to be a free agent until 2022. 3 more years. His cap hit here, I'm on Spot Track. It goes up to 26.5, 28.25, and then 24 and a quarter there. Yeah, not a chance. Not a chance at all when you
There's no way.
Because, I mean, Lamar Jackson would already be in a 5th-year option, and he's already started half of the games. And I don't like seeing quarterbacks lose their job via injury, but it also takes a lot of guts for a head coach to stick with what's working, and that's what Harbaugh did. Though we both agree, even before the season, we thought Lamar would probably get his chance when there was all the cat calling. Flacco would be, quote, hurt, whether he wanted to be or not, and subsequently benched. And, everyone makes that speculation about whether Chris Boswell – can you imagine? I bet Flacco is probably going to come out and say, well, I really wasn't that hurt. I could have come in earlier. Sound a little familiar? I mean,
yeah.
What else are you going to say? Oh, no, I was hurt all year and, like, damaged maybe, some of that what do you want to say, perception of any future suitors that he may have. It wouldn't surprise me if something is said, and I believe he's already kind of thrown a little bit of shade that direction as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him this offseason, because with those kind of cap numbers, it's just not feasible that the Ravens can keep him. But you're not going to be able to trade him because, somebody's going to have to assume that salary. And I don't see that happening. So, the question is, are they going to cut bait or try and figure out some creative way to restructure things? Who knows? But that is going to be an interesting point. And, yeah, he has had injury issues the last couple of years, and whether or not he was really hurt or just really ego bruised, a contusion of the ego that kept him on the sidelines, whatever it may be. Look, the way that he acted all year, we talked about this one game early on in the season where he had, they loved those little gimmick plays where they would run Jackson out and put him out on the side and as a receiver, and Flacco would never even look at him. Would never even look at him. It was just like, you know what? I am not giving you any more ammunition to take my job. But he did anyway, and you had to know it was going to happen. I don't feel that bad because, elite. Yeah, right. Okay, let's move on from him.
Well, they had to hold him this season because it would have been $40.75 million in dead cap space. Now it drops to 16 in 2019 if they don't try and move him at all, and then it's 8 the following year. And of course, you could do some fancy accounting, and maybe we've heard all the things with you. He who shall not be named 84 right now. Yeah. So, and then there's he who should not be named number 26, where his I'm not going to show up and play under the tag. That money will get factored in too. So there's some interesting things just with the Steelers cap. But just look at the Ravens, like all of that money. All people are going to say is for a few years, it's like the Steelers when Lamar Woodley was hurt and wasn't good, and they cut bait with him, and they were handcuffed with these long contracts or extending guys like Troy Polamalu and Heath Miller and that, and until they retired, and they did right by those guys. guys. There's nothing wrong with that. But they were still paying them a couple of years beyond their playing years. And, that caught up with the Steelers there for a while, and they're finally beyond that, hopefully, knock on wood. And, I'm going to get away from the Ravens. I'm going to get away from the Chargers right now. I think we talked enough about that. Winning cures all. As soon as one of these teams loses and goes down, you're right back into the rumor mills of things and whatnot. I don't think that the Chicago Bears necessarily have, yeah, they do have drama. Doink, double doink. You think Chris Boswell's the only guy who misses field goals? Cody Parkey was tied for the second most misses for kicks. That's including extra points and field goal attempts throughout the season. And, it came all the way down to the wire where they could have won it because there was a maybe controversial ref stink. Oh, I forgot to do that with the Chargers-Ravens. I'll come back to that in a second. The two-point conversion where apparently there's not enough cameras in a wild card playoff game. Why doesn't the NFL set up a camera somewhere, a little bit higher, eye in the sky at a 3/4 angle, so somebody's standing straight on the goal line that's just a little bit taller than the cameraman or the fixed camera position, doesn't block or obstruct the whole goal line. So you can't, you had a player from the Eagles stand right on the goal line. He's wearing a white jersey. You can't tell if the ball crosses the line. Why don't they put a chip in the ball? Chip the ball. They were working with this with soccer balls for years with goal line technology. This is the NFL. This is a multi-billion dollar, maybe, I don't know what's beyond a billion because I'll never find out, trillion business here.
That's correct.
It's huge. Yeah, it's the national debt. The NFL is almost there making that much money. Not quite Apple computer, but, but you know what I'm saying there, Brian? I mean, that's the difference in if Parkey makes it, then it's just a tie game and that game goes to OT. If Parkey makes it, the Bears win. Parkey did not make it. Somehow the Eagles with Nick Foles, who you want to talk about things. If the Bears don't beat the Vikings the final week of the season, they're not playing the Eagles.
Right.
So they let the Eagles into their house, and then the Eagles beat them. You think people aren't questioning this? They're probably not going to question a whole lot because they hadn't been in the postseason since, 2010? So, they're happy with the result right now.
Yeah, well, it's got to be a little bit bittersweet for them. Yes, they're happy they got in, but you had to know the game was going to end this way. How many times did Mouth Collingsworth say, he hit the goalpost 4 times this season? He hit the goalpost 4 times this season. You had to know he was going to hit the goalpost. You just had to. I literally tweeted it or texted it to my brother, who is an Eagles fan, and who was convinced they had lost the game. He was convinced the guy's going to make it, and I said, you watch, he's going to hit the damn goalpost. And he texted me back, and he goes, you're a witch. And I said, I'm not. But this is the kind of nonsense that makes people think the games are fixed, because the whole game, Collingsworth's going on and on about how this guy's hit the goalpost 4 times. And, of course, the game ends because he double doinks the goalposts. And, so I can see from a standpoint of a Bears fan where that's hard to get over. You feel like you should have had the game. There are other reasons for the way things went with this game. But it's interesting. And we talk about Nick Foles. Here's another quarterback, right? That somebody's going to have to do something with, because I think they're on the hook for him for $20 million next year. And you're not paying a backup quarterback $20 million, and you're not making Carson Wentz your backup quarterback. So they got to do something with Nick Foles before the end of next season.
Yeah,
or before the beginning of next season.
Yeah, I'm pulling up Foles' contract right here. I want to reiterate, not necessarily happy with the result of losing and being bounced out of the playoffs, but happy with first-year coach Matt Nagy and the job they did.
Absolutely.
It's not like they're going to fire him based on what happened this year. And, Mitch Trubisky, incomplete pass before halftime. Refs stink. They stinketh, and they continue to stinketh. Yeah, Nick Foles is cap hit, 20.6. He was 13.6 this year. He was only 1.6 the year before. So, you're looking at, let me see, I'm looking at 18. There's 6 zeros there? Yeah, my eyes were almost deceiving me. $18 million for a dead cap. So, sayonara. Nice to know you. Thank you, Nick. Go see Disney World or whatever. It's still, his story's not written yet, man. It's not over for that team. Defending champs. Didn't think they were even going to make the postseason. So plenty of drama there. We talked about a few of the officiating calls. I want to go back to Baltimore nearly getting screwed the same way that the Cleveland Browns were screwed on the goal line as well, with the play being whistled dead almost instantly. But I got to say, man, Derek Watt catches a ball and isn't touched down and is literally rolling in the paint, basically. And they're going to say, well, no, you know what? Nah, ball didn't cross the line, and then spotted on the 1.
That's the worst part of this. That's the worst part of that is it's okay, fine. You don't think he crossed the goal line, that the ball didn't break the plane because Al Riveron's got something stuck in his eyeball and he can't see the replay. You can't put the ball on the 1 yard line. It's at the inch line, if anything. How insane is that?
Well, people are trying to tell us that, all you guys do is talk about the Steelers and say how they cost you games. Exhibit B.
We've said, and look, we've both said this all season. We complain about it during Steelers games because that's what we're talking about. But we have said very clearly, the refs cost a lot of people games. It's not just the Steelers. Yes, it hits a little harder home when it is the Steelers, but they stink. They just flat out stink. It's across the board. And I'm going to go one further. The rule book is stupid because that play in the Bears game, that's the stupidest rule ever. Well, we don't have a clear recovery, so even though it's a clear reception and we know it's a reception and we should be overturning it, we're not going to. Well, that's just ridiculous.
You know what else is kind of ridiculous? This is almost, Terry's going to be upset. It's almost turning into a WTF episode talking about everything and saying, what the F, basically, football. F is for football and fire truck. So here's another one. They added a case. Is it a case study, case scenario? It's a rule situation, case study. I'm trying to think of the proper word for it. It probably is case study, but it's a scenario or situation that happens in a game, and then they have the official ruling per, and this is in the rule book. So it's like, A happens with B, so then X is equal to Y. And this is to clear up anything, and I guess this has never happened in a game, but there was like some type of situation where there's like a fumble, and then it goes into a pile in the end zone, and it's not fumbled forward. This is a team basically with their back to their own end zone, okay? And there's like a fumble on the snap, and all of a sudden there's a pile, and you can't tell who's a clear recovery apparently. And they just added this right before the postseason. Nothing better than changing rules right as we're still playing games. And that's at the worst, they said, without a clear recovery, it at least has to be a safety, because if the offense recovers it and then they're down, and it would be a safety. Of course, if the defense recovered it, it would be a touchdown. Well, if everyone thinks the defense, you think that's going to make anyone feel better that they get 2 points instead of 6 with a potential 1 or 2 added on it, depending on the scenario of the game? Heck no. And we're making these decisions in the middle of the season. It's just incredibly ridiculous. We still have 2 more of these actually to talk about, Brian. We didn't even get to all these other teams in the league as far as drama. A lot of people were talking. I got it in. You probably saw the tweets back and forth with someone that's in Pittsburgh media. I'll leave it at that. Protect the guilty here, who loves to stir up drama with their tweets, and I couldn't help myself but to respond back. Look, 2 teams don't have drama. Houston Texans were ready to fire Bill O'Brien. They didn't know if Deshaun Watson was going to come back at full strength. You're just assuming that he would. There were plenty of other problems with the Texans throughout the years. J.J. Watt, you didn't think he was going to come back and be what he was. But look at the Colts, man. They went to hire a head coach in Josh McDaniels during the offseason, and the guy said no thanks. And then they were left holding the bag when everyone else made their hires already. And you didn't know they had the whole botched thing with Andrew Luck in his shoulder. He didn't play a whole year. Had to get, another surgery or 2 or whatever it was. And you had no idea how any of this was going to turn out. And what I'm trying to say here is that you had no idea what the Steelers are going to turn out like. Why are we judging things? That's what I hate between the weeks. We're judging things before any games are even played, anything ever done. This is a slow burn now that we're going through the offseason, and we don't have football again until put pads on in August. So there's a lot of time, 7 months or so. You're going to have a draft. You're going to have a lot of things, and everyone's already freaking out about the Steelers, and it's like, look where the Colts were a year ago. They were an abysmal team, and you know what? you know what the major thing is between these teams? I look at these two specifically. I also look at the Chargers like this, the Ravens a little bit like this, definitely the Bears like this. They were all losers. They all were drafting higher in the drafts and able to acquire higher quality players because they're drafting lower, or I should say higher, because they have a worse record. And the Steelers have not had a worse record since like 2002 or 2003. They continuously, the last time it was 2003, wasn't it, Brian? Last time they had a bad record, who did they end up drafting? They draft Troy, they draft Ben, and they draft Heath back to back to back. They had to have losing seasons in order to get in those type of positions and have the ammo to move around when they traded up and moved for a couple of those picks. That's how the Chargers get Joey Bosa. That's how the Houston Texans get Jadeveon Clowney and then Deshaun Watson. This is how the Colts got Andrew Luck to begin with. And any of the other guys, was it McGlinchey or whatever? I'm trying to think. Or Quentin Nelson. Quentin Nelson was the one that went to them. This is how they get these type of players. Mitchell Trubisky to the Bears. This just doesn't happen overnight. There was drama there to begin with.
Yeah, look. Since you mentioned Troy, I got to give him props. Troy is going into the College Football Hall of Fame. So congratulations to Troy Polamalu for that. Any chance I can give to mention the great haired one.
The GOAT.
But let's now move back to this. It's true, like you said. Look, every single team has drama. The difference. I don't think either one of us is going to say that the amount of drama surrounding the Steelers this year is a normal amount. It wasn't. And did it impact this season? Yes, it probably did. But going forward is a different thing. The drama that is currently erupting, which, as you said, by the way, Zach Meckler wrote a great article about it on the site, on steelcityunderground.com. You should check it out. But, the stuff that we're seeing right now is no indication that next year is going to be an issue. Look, they've got plenty of time to address all this. And the bottom line of all of this is if all this drama comes out now, it can end up making the team a more solid team as time goes on. We don't know all the details, but, it is what it is. And every single team has drama. Every single team has drama. The Patriots are going to have drama this offseason because they're gonna have drama. Is Gronkowski going to retire? Is Josh McDaniels going to take a head coaching job somewhere else? Is somebody else going to take a head coaching job somewhere else? Is Bill Belichick going to get a new hoodie? I don't know.
Is Brady going to retire? That's why I say just wait until
Brady going to retire.
Just wait until they lose. Is the dynasty over? It's like, winning heals all and losing destroys all. And this was kind of my point too with, we're talking about none of the playoff teams. Still had two more I hadn't talked about. I was going to jump on the Patriots bandwagon here because, of course, the teams that didn't play also have the drama, but the teams that did, Seattle Seahawks had a guy who sat out training camp on a franchise tag. Sound familiar? He did report. Then what? Broke his leg and flipped off all the fans at a home game as he leaves. And Earl Thomas, this happened this season. Richard Sherman gets shown the door. I mean, they still turned it around and somehow made the playoffs, kind of like by the skin of their teeth. And they play a Dallas Cowboys team who was not looking good to begin the season. Everyone was like, Dak Prescott's not the guy. And they had to deal with Travis Frederick, their center, what was it, some rare disease or whatever it was that endangered him being able to play football. And then they make the trade for Amari Cooper, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's stupid! Why would you give that up for Amari Cooper?" And he sucked in with the Raiders, and there you go. Just look at it. And, these are the things where these teams are like laughing at all of this, even if they were listening to this right now, that this is drama and these are the storylines. Only a select few. It's a brotherhood. It's a closed, locked, tight-knit type thing where we may never know all of the details. And, I don't care to know just as long as they get their stuff straight. Let's talk about that with the Patriots. The Patriots had this drama in the offseason too. Brady was with his trainer, and there's like some rift between his trainer and Bill Belichick, and usually these things don't gain traction because they're the tightest lipped of anyone. They don't have some unnamed source within the organization that spills the beans, just deflates footballs. Wait, did that actually happen? There was drama there, or spying, or a guy that was convicted of some very heinous crimes, all part of the Patriots. Yeah, I know it's over a period of time, but come on, it's a lot of people try and say that too and say, oh, this has gone downhill with Mike Tomlin. Oh, because Bill Cowher never ever had a loudmouth Joey Porter who was, talking smack to other teams and have it backfire or anything like that? Or who else? Do you think that, Terry Bradshaw was sending Christmas cards to Chuck Noll or vice versa? That relationship never worked. I mean, it worked for them to win games. They put everything aside business-wise, and that's what it's going to take maybe with He Who Shall Not Be Named 84 and if it's with Big Ben or whoever the spat is with. And that's what the Patriots are doing too. There's probably more there, but there is some truth to that. If they lose, there's going to be talk about Gronk retiring. There's going to be talk about Brady retiring. You look at the rest of that division, it's just there. You look at the Bills went from finally making the playoffs for the first time in 19 years. Last year, they were basically, it was almost the same bizarro world as the Steelers in Heinz Field just a week earlier chanting "Let's go Browns." The Bills were like Andy Dalton jerseys, and they were buying, contributing donations to him because the Bengals had beaten the Ravens in that final week and allowed the Bills to go to the playoffs. And then look what they did. They gutted the team. They got rid of their quarterback and their offensive line, and they got one of their all-time defenders, and Kyle Williams is gone now too. You got the Jets don't have a head coach. The Dolphins don't have a head coach. The teams without a head coach are in total disarray. The whole AFC East is in disarray. The Cleveland Browns don't have a coach. The Bengals don't have a coach. Who else is on here? The Tennessee Titans are losing their offensive coordinator. Marcus Mariota's got to start this all over. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they still have Blake Bortles.
There you go. There's controversy. There's drama right there.
Leonard Fournette.
Your quarterback is Blake Bortles.
Oh, no. Leonard Fournette and TJ Yeldon, apparently, the running backs, they got rid of Tyrone Wheatley, the running backs coach, because these guys weren't giving it their all or didn't want to go in the game or whatever the heck was going on there in the final week. They were disgruntled. Denver Broncos need a coach too. Vance Joseph on the way out, as mentioned earlier. The Raiders, 4-12 this year, and they paid over $100 million for 10 years to have this awesome new head coach that they got. So that's looking great too. But let's not forget the Kansas City Chiefs are still in this thing, and they had a guy kick some woman in the head or something, So it's like there's the whole AFC, folks. Half of the teams in the league, drama.
Yeah, it's a part of what captivates us about the NFL.
in a good or bad way. Do we want to go through the rest?
Well, let's look. The stupid Cowboys won. Boo hiss.
Exactly.
But they get to go play the Rams, I guess, because the Eagles get to go play New Orleans. So let's just hope that ends that, because there's two things that need to happen for my daughter to be happy with this postseason, and that's that the Patriots lose and the Cowboys lose, because then no one can win 6.
Absolutely. That's all I care about all day, every day, twice on Sundays.
Yeah, it's all it matters is I'm rooting against teams as opposed to rooting for teams, although I'm sort of low-key rooting for those guys in the lightning bolt hats, just because there's a part of me that thinks it would be cool if every quarterback from that particular draft class had won a Super Bowl.
I'm good with that, actually, and it kind of validates the Steelers losing to them, even though the refs stink.
Oh, my God.
No, you mentioned I'm going to stay in that NFC East. You were talking about the Cowgirls. The Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? How about that Jason Garrett? Everybody wanted to talk about Mike Tomlin only won 3-4 playoff games or whatever. Jason Garrett finally got one, He's been coaching since 2010, and I think that's their second or their third victory. I mean, he hasn't even been in the playoffs that many times. You talk about a guy who's had a job and done nothing. There's somebody who's done less with, you're going to arguably say that Des Bryant and a team with Tony Romo and DeMarco Murray at one point wasn't a talented team, just like, people want to say with the Steelers, Mike Tomlin doesn't win with all this talent. Cowboys had all this talent too, just bad luck maybe. The Redskins, talk about bad luck. Holy cow, guys just break their legs there. So don't be a quarterback for the Redskins. And
no.
There's plenty of other things with the Redskins and that owner and that in the group, and actually the name of the team itself, depending on whatever side of the argument that you're on, that causes enough drama for them. We can just let them be. We know that they fester with drama. The Giants was an organization here, much revered, much like the Steelers. Ever since Tom Coughlin's been out of there, they're trying to get rid of Eli Manning, who's won 2 Super Bowls. Maybe he's getting up there in age. I don't know what it is, but you want to talk about bad drafting, or you need to draft. You need to draft all these great players. Well, you need to be higher in the draft in order to maybe do that. Yep. Well, the Giants have done that, and you need to spend money on free agents in order to get better. Someone needs to send a memo to the Giants that neither of those things have really been working out for them, although Saquon Barkley looks like he's going to have himself a decent future in the NFL. But you know what? The Giants is just a real model thing of they shoved Tom Coughlin out the door, and hasn't been very good. Ben McAdoo and now Pat Shurmur, 5-11.
Let me say this about the Giants. I've been saying it for 3 years, and Zach will back me up on this. Draft some damn offensive linemen, please.
That's where it all starts, man. I mean, that's
where it all starts. You got a running back. You got a quarterback who probably can play if you keep the people off of him. Draft some offensive linemen.
Well, he's an Iron Man. Until Ben McAdoo sat him, he had like this consecutive game streak going. I don't know if it was an NFL record or it was approaching the record, and he completely botched that just because the head coach had gotten a major ego. But, I mean, the Giants looked like they were starting to turn this around a little bit toward the end of the season. I mean, they literally lost, Brian, out of these games. The only team they beat was the Houston Texans out of 8 games. They went 1-7 to start the season. Then they won 4 of their next 5, rounded out to about 5-8. There was still an opportunity that they could have made the postseason, and then they flop and lose their last 3 games to the Titans, Colts, and Cowboys. Cowboys by 1 point, with the Cowboys sitting a whole bunch of their players too. Not exactly a good look for them. You continue to go. We talked about the North. We talked about the Bears. We talked about the Vikings with Kirk Cousins. They got rid of their offensive coordinator mid-season. It didn't really turn anything around. 8-7-1 there. For a team, a lot of people had possibly Super Bowl aspirations based on, last year with the Minneapolis Miracle or whatever they called it against the Saints. You get a lot of talented players there, and they didn't make the postseason. You look around there, too, the poor Lions are always the poor Lions. We don't have to say much more than that. The Green Bay Packers. You want to
let's talk about them. Let's talk about them.
Diva quarterback, huge contract, legacy of this organization and cherished franchise that has won championships, 6-9-1. Zach and Eric would like that. You can't make some of this stuff up, and they're kind of floundering lately. You expect the way that they operate for them to turn it around too. I don't know necessarily being out of the playoffs is being out of the playoffs, no matter how you cut it. But, the Steelers are still on the side of we were kind of in it. The Packers weren't in it like the entire year at all. And here you go. Your star diva quarterback got your head coach who won you a Super Bowl shoved out of town. Will it be better with the next guy? I don't know. They're looking at the Titans offensive coordinator, and, I was just saying that. Mariota, like on his 4th or 5th coordinator now they're going to destroy a number 1 pick overall quarterback as well. Or was he number 2? It was him and Jameis that year, wasn't it? Or am I crossing things up?
Like
anyways, he was one of the top picks. He's a first-round pick, and this guy's never going to get off the ground because he's just, here's another playbook for you, son.
Yeah. The thing is about Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers is everyone's darling. He's the greatest quarterback since the invention of football, and he's won 1 Super Bowl. He hasn't, he has. You can't even claim he hasn't had talent around him. You can't make any of these claims that you often throw at other quarterbacks, but he's not winning. So you tell me. He's the prima donna, maybe just behind Brady, and I won't argue with Brady's results, but let's argue a little bit about Aaron Rodgers' results. And you want to have some drama, maybe he should not be making quite so many State Farm commercials and trying to focus on how he's going to get his team into the playoffs and winning, because he's won 1 Super Bowl and he's been to 1 Super Bowl, and that's it. And I don't see this legacy being built here, and you just, again, you cannot go down the path of going, well, he was never surrounded by guys, and that's been Phillip Rivers' thing, and it's been fair, but it hasn't. That you can't say that about Aaron Rodgers, and yet he's the poster boy for greatest quarterbacks to ever live.
Yeah, and you talk about great quarterbacks. How much drama is surrounding Drew Brees and whether or not the Saints would sign or extend him and franchise tags and all these other things. And, how old's this guy going to be? How long is he going to play? Are you wasting his best years? They've had a heck of a year. But
yeah, they have.
Where they came from, they had their head coach suspended, along with the guy who was the interim head coach of the Browns currently, that was their defensive coordinator, and the whole Bounty Gate deal. And those guys are still around. Some of that is still around that organization. And, I'm surprised it doesn't come up more than it does. But, geez, oh, man, I mean, they're not even absolved from any of the drama type stuff. And, I'm gonna pause for a second because I was just made me think of like all of these owners or people that may have had an impact on an organization with these commemorative patches. All these teams have these different commemorative patches. I think they're pretty darn cool. I love them all. I'm biased, of course, to the DMR the Steelers wore last year, but I love seeing all of the different ones, like a Tom Benson or I'm trying to think of McNair's name that was with the Texans, and I mentioned earlier the Spanos family, and I love it. I think it's a good, what do you want to say, way to honor those that contributed to those organizations, even if it's as simple as like a helmet sticker for Chuck Noll or something like that that's been done in the past with the Steelers. I think that stuff's really cool. So seeing that in the postseason, I think that's pretty neat to continue seeing it. But, I mean, yeah, Saints, I mean, of course, they're winning, so there's not so much drama. But look at the rest of the NFC South. Are you kidding me? The Atlanta Falcons, I think they cleared house on all their coaching staff except for the head coach, Dan Quinn. Ron Rivera somehow still has a job, even though the Panthers have just been, they've been mediocre. They've been a 500.
We broke them. We broke them.
Absolutely.
We broke the Panthers.
Like the Iron Sheik. They broke them.
Yeah.
The Camel Clutch. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, well, they're looking for another head coach. They're basically the Browns of the NFC.
Supposedly Bruce Arians.
Yeah.
Was reported today. Bruce Arians is going to be announced.
Interesting enough. You go over to the NFC West. The Rams, they have anything going on? I think they paid a lot of guys. Gurley, you're not going to hear a whole lot about that. Aaron Donald, that whole situation during the offseason, they paid that guy too.
Drama.
Definitely drama. So maybe a little bit in the rear view, but you get past it. You overcome adversity, to use a Tomlinism. The 49ers, I don't know where to place them on this spectrum. I mean, they just get guys to get your quarterback hurt, Garoppolo. I don't know that they ever really got out the gate. They went and got their coach, Shanahan. You would think that their GM, John Lynch, it looks like he's a wheeler and dealer, and he's making some moves that are going to help. But still, 4-12 is probably not the results you're looking for, but maybe an asterisk on that one. Then you got the Arizona Cardinals, who hired a new head coach and drafted a quarterback, and you're doing all the right things to turn this franchise around because you got rid of Bruce Arians, walked away, and he darn there got Carson Palmer decapitated several times, and he retires. So now you're moving on. This is the future. This is what the Steelers' future could look like with Steve Wilkes, and he's gone. He's already done. 3-13. Not a good
and be that fair or unfair. Look, my opinion is if you're going to hire a coach, you got to give him more than a year.
Unless he was just really that bad, which, again, that's a behind the scenes you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So
don't know whether he lost the locker room. Don't know whether the guys weren't responding to what he had to say or what he was preaching. You don't know a lot of things, but man, they were bad this year.
Absolutely bad. And there were still plenty of talented players that are still on both sides of the ball there, like a Patrick Peterson or a Larry Fitzgerald or David Johnson, or, so the whole point of all this is, not to belabor the dramas everywhere. We're going to talk about some more Steelers drama, maybe not so much number 84 and maybe the coming episode or two, but there was something interesting I wanted to expound upon with either yourself or the professor or whoever comes on the show and does this, but it was just to talk about some of the Steelers drama even in the offseason. We're going to keep an eye on some of that because, it may surprise you where some of the angles were and where some of this stuff come from. It's not just surrounding maybe just one guy wearing an 8 and a 4 on his jersey. And from the looks of things, not just one player or even one incident in some cases defines what these teams are now or what they were even 6 months ago before the season really kicked into high gear and you were getting everyone into training camp. So don't fret, Steelers Nation. Hopefully this helps absolve some of those wounds you're still licking. I know it's painful being there watching these wild card games, divisional games, not seeing your team in it. I still like to see how it unfolds. I still like I don't like to see the referees botch calls. I don't know how they're going to fix any of that, Brian. I'm also going to talk. I want to bring up a topic sometime in the near future, so maybe some rules that can be changed, because I think pass interference, including Michael Crabtree pushing off again. Did you catch that one too with the Chargers? Yeah, I was told that he never does that, by the way, by a Ravens fan. About 20 tweets back and forth, and I was just like, yeah, you're crazy. Oh, I couldn't find that one. They had these many called. Well, he doesn't get called for some of them. It's the same thing you're accusing 84, I almost said his name, of doing. So I said I wasn't going to name his name, so I think I did pretty good with that today. But yeah, just hang in there. Realize that the Steelers aren't the only team that has to deal with any type of drama, adversity, off-field issues, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, bottom line is you've got a bunch of personalities that are have been raised to be to look at the world differently than the rest of us do. And they have certain expectations and certain views of entitlement. And guess what? That leads to drama. And it ain't just in Pittsburgh. It's everywhere.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not like all these guys grow up in Pittsburgh. They come from all over, all kinds of diverse backgrounds, not only growing up, their homes, hometowns, colleges that they played for, different settings, friends, family, just all kinds of different situations. And then you got to deal with everybody's a different age. You got guys in the locker room that are, not quite as old as you, Brian, unless we're talking Adam Vinatieri. He's getting there. He's catching up.
Yeah.
And
he ain't there yet. He's never going to catch up.
He looked mad before halftime. Did you see that? He was mad. He wanted an opportunity to get that kick. And, I forget who it was. Maybe it was Naheem Hines that stayed in bounds, or Chester Rogers. Or I can't remember who caught the pass. And they didn't get out of bounds, and the clock ran out. They didn't have a time. Colts didn't have a timeout to get Vinatieri on the field to get a shot, the kick. And he kind of panned to him with the camera. And he muttered something. He has his salt and pepper beard there, mostly gray now. He could almost be Santa if he lets it grow out. And
I know exactly what he said. He said, "Get off my lawn."
He probably did. He probably has a shotgun in his locker, doing the old Clint Eastwood Gran Torino deal. But yeah, you get my point. There's guys that are from that completely different generation. He's probably got kids that are almost old enough, probably as old as Juju. So depending on when if he has a family and he started it, I'm just making assumptions here on the hypothetical, without knowing Mr. Vinatieri personally. But that's what we're trying to get at here, is like there's a lot of different things that go into this. This is like a dysfunctional family, just like all of us here at Steel City Underground. So thank you once again, Brian, for taking some time out for our faithful listeners.
I'll do anything for our faithful listeners, almost, unless it makes me stay up late.
Yeah, maybe. Unless it makes you do that, because then when he stays up late, he gets cranky. But if there's any topics that Ian's want to hear on the show, almost anything's not off topic. There's some things that we can't touch, but we'd be happy to hear or read in the comments whatever you got for us. You could also send it to the fan mail at steelcityunderground.com, or you could text our number or call at 203-900-4SCU. That's 4728. Until next time, look forward to those submissions. My name's Joe. His name's Brian. We encourage everyone to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.